Board of Appeals special meeting for September 22, 2021. Before, call to order and roll call, please.
Certainly. Member Danley.
Here.
Member Fisher.
Here.
Member Miller is absent. We will come back to Member Russell. Member Sorensen.
Here.
Member Toll.
Here.
Chair Peters. You have a quorum.
Thank you. We've received a request from Member Russell that he would like to participate virtually tonight, and without objection, he can participate as a voting member of the commission. So is there any objection? Hearing none, Member Russell will participate virtually. Before we get into agenda item number 2, Mr. Cole will give us a brief overview of the.
Yeah, so the format is a bit different tonight, just to accommodate our workshop. So we, the PCZBA, will go until 7 o'clock. A couple minutes before 7, we'll stop this agenda. We are actually going to be sitting over there. The board will take their seats here. We'll resume the workshop, or we'll do the joint workshop, and then afterwards, if we need to, we'll come back around to the dais again. So just a brief note so we can move around, shuffle as we need to.
Great, thank you. Agenda item number 2, non-agenda items and visitors, public comment time. The commission allows the general public to raise any issues of concern for a 15-minute period of time every meeting, 5-minute allocation on issues that are not on the agenda. Anybody from the public, Mr. Cole, participating tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I know we have no one present with us here at Village Hall and no one joining us on Zoom.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3, consideration of the August 18, 2021 PCZBA regular meeting minutes. Any proposed revisions or other changes from any of the members?
Mr. Chairman, I will note we received corrections from members Sorensen and Russell, nothing substantive.
Okay, and they'll be incorporated into the record. Any other comments from the commissioners? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Voice in the distance.
Agenda item number 4, public hearing, text amendment, storage of goods and outdoor loading and storage in industrial districts. Mr. Cole, have we opened the public hearing?
Yes, so you opened and continued this meeting, or hearing, excuse me, at your last meeting. Again, we're still putting together some items on this. I didn't want to bring it forward this evening. We'd ask that you would, again, open the hearing, note that no one is here to comment, and then that you would consider continuing the hearing to your next regular meeting on October 20th, 2021, excuse me.
Thank you. Yes, the hearing is open, but as Mr. Cole indicated, no one present from the public to participate. So we are requesting a motion to continue this hearing to the next regular meeting. Is there a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 5, resolution rule to require the appearance or representation of applicants. Mr. Cole, if you want to give a brief overview?
Certainly, and I would defer any questions on this, of course, to the village attorney who was so kindly drafted this. But as you remember, at your last meeting, you discussed having a procedural rule to require applicants to be present before you conduct the hearing. We've prepared an example rule for you. Really, this evening you have 3 options. The first is you don't have to adopt the rule. Whether or not you adopt it, you always have the choice of continuing with the hearing. If you do adopt the rule, that's a pretty firm rule. You wouldn't be able, as presented, you wouldn't be able to just waive it if you had a compelling reason to. The third choice is you can adopt it, but just provide that, for example, 2/3 of the PCZBA could vote and waive the rule in a particular instance. So we have no staff recommendation here. This is up to you how you'd like to conduct your meetings.
Okay. Any comment from any of the commissioners?
Yes, I'd like to make one comment in section 2, second paragraph, where it says attorney and/or applicant should be present. I think an architect, builder, or contractor is sufficient to be present. I don't think it has to be the owner or the attorney specifically.
Was it architect, builder, or?
Contractor.
I would agree with that. Additionally, I would like the option to waive with a supermajority. I think, there are compelling reasons that we may want to continue a hearing without them present. So I think giving us some flexibility would be important, though I do encourage all petitioners to be present or have a representative.
I agree with that.
I concur.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable approach also, Member Towle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion, please?
Make a motion to adopt the rules with added, rule number 3, added that we can add the architect, builder, or contractor to the person applying for the application.
Any further discussion? Was there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
And that there be the waiver, the
And the third, yeah, rule number
option
3.
to waive.
Yeah, rule number 3.
Right, you need a roll call for this. Oh, just voice? Okay.
Yeah, I guess, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 6, the accessory dwelling unit workshop. As all of us are very aware, we've spent considerable time, as has staff and council, working our way through a proposed draft ordinance. Mr. Cole was so generous and Peter's firm to generate a revised proposed ordinance, which I am sure that all the commissioners have reviewed. My thought is that any commissioner could certainly raise any specific concern that they may have with respect to the current draft. If our next step, barring any revision, our next step would be to go to a public hearing. But it's still a fluid document. It can still be revised during that process. So if one has a specific comment or recommendation, we should discuss it now. Member Fisher.
I just have 3 different more questions, I think, than anything. On page 2, where we're talking revisit it before 5 years, I mean, basically, we could revisit it at any time.
That's correct.
And we don't have to wait 5 years or anything, right? Okay. Second, on page 5, when we talk about the maximum for the country estate district, we say, except for the country estate district, 800 square feet. Do we ever in here, I don't think I noticed where we put a maximum for country estate.
There, as drafted here, there is not a maximum in the country estate district.
Okay.
Like a firm number maximum.
Okay, that's fine. And then the third thing on page 6, just a question about the front yard. I understand that we pretty often, we probably mostly don't want accessory dwellings in the front yard, but can there be a variance if, something could look like a coach house, if it was done proportionately and demurely, so to say, to the main house or something. So with this, if somebody proposed that, it could just be a variance, correct?
Yeah, again, ordinarily, a variance needs to show hardship. You'd want to see a hardship to
Oh,
set this rule
true.
aside. But yes, you could seek both. It would be the same hearing, the same process that happens from time to time.
Okay, because I think there could be instances where it makes sense to have it in the front yard, if it's done, effectively. So, those are my just 3 questions, kind of.
Yeah, thank you, Member Fisher. Member Danley.
I have very little, just knowing that revisions are going to be taking place, when we're open to a public hearing. I've just always questioned one thing, just even on page 1, requires 1 additional parking stall for an ADU. Sometimes that's really a hardship on shared driveways and whatever else. I just question, what is that? I'm going to keep my eye on something like that. Another issue is landscape. How do we follow through with adhering to making sure that they properly place additional landscape. If, you know, if a tree has to come down or anything else has been changed or too much impervious surface, we really need to have that follow through. And I'm sure that'll be brought up with the community. Another thing is I just worry, and again, I want to stay open to looking at what the public thinks and things that will evolve, but, you know, it'd be nice not to assume that what we build has to be unpleasant to the eye. You know, I would hope that we would instill beautiful, nice materials and upgrade whatever this is going to be built is going to be something that could be an addition to our community. And so for me, that's going to be a guideline moving forward to make sure that we instill that in our various workshops and meetings, moving forward.
No, thank you very, very much. All excellent comments. Member Russell?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay, very good. I wasn't present at the last meeting for this discussion, so I do have probably a couple more comments than some of the other members. Some of them are very small comments and one or two larger issues. On page 5, this is a small, very small comment. On section E, the next to the last line, I don't understand the use of the word detached accessory dwelling unit. I feel like this particular section E is for all accessory dwelling units. And that word detached, I think maybe is a mistake that should have been removed.
Member Russell, if we're looking at the same thing, that word detached is in red line, and so it's struck from the last version to this one.
The last version? I'm sorry, I got a packet mailed to me. Was there another version?
Struck out.
Oh, no, from last month's version.
Is it stricken?
Yeah, that is, so in the copy we circulated in August, the word detached was there. It's struck out now in the copy.
Not the very first word in the section E, but in the 5th line down in section E. Village board finds.
Oh,
that
yeah.
the detached-
Got it. We will delete that.
Okay. And then down in this section, the same section on the same page that Deb Fisher was questioning, where there was no limit set for the country estate. I guess I'm probably in the minority here, but I believe that the community is better served if we have fixed maximum limits rather than a suggested guideline. I don't understand why two people with the same size lots could possibly negotiate 100 or 2 square feet more. You know, we had the issue last month where a resident came in and they thought that a 4,000 square foot home in their front yard and a second home was completely fine and acceptable. And I think we're going to run into problems if we don't set a maximum, and maybe we can adjust it later on like anything else in this ordinance, but I feel pretty strongly that we'd be better off telling people with this new ADU that you're limited to the 800 square feet in all the districts, and then in the country estate district I would suggest 1,400, because that is currently the minimum size that's acceptable in the country estate district for a principal dwelling. So that would be my thoughts on that. I don't know if anyone is willing to go along with me on that or not, but that's my thought. On the next page, page 6, paragraph F, I'm questioning what the definition of living area. We use the term living area, and that's not a defined term in our code. So I'm wondering if that should be adjusted. Maybe just staff could work on that and call it habitable space, or but living area is going to I think, create a problem for staff because it's not defined in our code. And down in section H on page 6, point number 3, height. I believe in the next to the last sentence there, zoning district or the height of the principal structure. I think that was intended to read for the height. If you read that through, I think the F was left out. Is that not the intention?
No,
Glenn?
I think it's a good catch.
Okay. And then,
Well, let's stop on that one for a minute, George. One of the concerns that I've brought up in the past is any accessory dwelling exceed the height of the principal structure. So I agree that, for your argument for the zoning district for the height of the principal structure, but I also think it should not exceed the height of the principal structure itself. So perhaps there could be a bit more clarity in that section on including both of those concerns.
oh, that's a good thought. I agree with that completely. And I think that was always the intention in our discussions, that the height not exceed the height of the principal structure that's there. So, I concur. And then, yep, I think the only other thing, Glenn, you caught, I commented to you about the section number references being off in a couple locations in the draft, but I won't run through those because I'm sure you can clean those up. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Member Russell. All excellent points also. I'm certainly not opposed to the inclusion of the proposed 1,400 square foot maximum. I think the process is going to be special use permit, and I think that could allow for some latitude down the line, but it seems like a reasonable limitation, at least preliminarily.
Now, can I just
Of
ask,
course, I was also suggesting, Chair Peters, that the 800 and the 1,400 be listed as a maximum, not as a guideline maximum, but that would be the initial rule going forward. Only because I fear there are too many people out there that don't have a problem coming in and thinking that they're creating no impact at all to their neighbors. And I don't understand the rationale of even entertaining discussions to have different size ADUs allowed for the same size lots.
No, I don't disagree, Member Russell. I think that's certainly a reasonable proposal.
can I just ask, I know that we had talked about 1,500 square feet, George, for country estates. You know, with country estates being 200,000 square foot lots, I think, for usually about 4.5 acres, I think 1,500 is logical to have 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, kitchen, et cetera. So,
Yep, 14, 15, they're so close on those big lots, it wouldn't matter to me,
okay,
just as long as we have a number.
okay.
I do appreciate Member Russell's, I guess, logic behind a principal structure must be 1,400 or more. So I can understand that logic, but yeah, 14 or 15. I like having a number. I think that's important to give that, and whether it's and I believe a maximum would be prudent. Of course, they could always apply for a variance and get more than that, but I think having that as a maximum number would be a good idea. Whether it's 14 or 15 makes no difference to me.
Is there a consensus with respect to 1,500?
Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
let's We'll go with that.
Okay, great.
That way we've got the guardrails in place. Member Miller?
I think everything that's been said, I agree with, and I think we should move forward finally.
Member Townsend? Or Member Sorensen, I should say.
Okay,
Apologize.
sure. I think everything has really been stated already, thank you. And I also will be paying attention to the overall aesthetics of anything that comes before us. Particularly mindful of what our lots wind up looking like, and mindful of ongoing change in climate and what our town looks like overall as an attractive place to live. And we want to maintain that and also provide flexibility. So.
I'd like to make a comment.
Certainly.
Are we charged with doing aesthetics in this group? Or are we just charged with zoning? There's an architectural review board that I think it does the aesthetics. And I think if we get bogged down in aesthetics plus zoning, we'll never get out of here.
I completely appreciate that, and I think to apply a little more detail to that, I would say, as I think Member Danley pointed out, landscaping, impervious surfaces, a few of the details that we are charged with, and I'm mindful of the planning piece as well, so holding both in
Impervious
hand.
surfaces are very important to this committee, and but the way the house looks is it's not our purview.
That's not our purview. You're correct. Thanks.
But I think we do address landscaping with the special use permit.
Yes.
So
Landscaping.
maybe we just need a subparagraph of clarity as to the scope of our,
That would be,
Responsibilities.
I would like that.
any other comments or general recommendations? We'll have to determine what our next steps are, but.
I'm sorry, George Russell here. I have one more question for staff. I was a little surprised that there wasn't a statement made in the regulations that the intent is still for even with the improvements of an accessory dwelling unit, whether it be attached or detached, that the overall improvements on the property are going to comply with the existing bulk regulations. And I'm wondering, for the average reader that would pick up this document, as it is drafted, I think it's a little bit confusing because that statement is not made. And I'm sure that's still the intent, unless something went completely awry last month that I wasn't aware of. That is the intent, is it not, Glenn?
That's correct, Member Russell. If you look at subsection H, it tries to get at that. It says, in addition to the bulk regulations, these extra regulations apply. And we can spell that out a bit more if that's the desire.
I just think it's always nice for people or developers or owners that are, working through the code themselves, that we try to make it as explicit as possible for them. I think just adding one sentence to clarify that, in my opinion, wouldn't hurt, since that was clearly the intent.
We can certainly do that.
From a next steps perspective, would it be best for us to review the revised draft next meeting and then probably proceed with the public hearing 2 meetings from now? Or,
Unless there's any pressing projects that are waiting for this to happen, I think that would be a good idea. I think we've made enough adjustments that to see a final copy would be prudent.
I agree.
I think that's the consensus, and Glenn, unless you and the village have any other thoughts, that's our recommendation.
We can work with that.
Thank you. We've got about 2 minutes. Staff report, commissioners report?
No report this evening.
Okay. In the interest of time, I guess it would be appropriate to move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
By the quickest meeting we've had.